Well, hello again, everybody. By the time this goes up, it's going to be 2023. I'm actually filming this. There's only like 25 minutes left in 2022. So I just finished my work for the day and I was ready to do this. I got this list together, finished getting it together earlier today. I've got them laid out in honorable mention, just one screen with honorable mentions and titles, and then counting down from 10 all the way to 1. So there are a few films that are coming out that are probably a lot of people have a high anticipation for. Some of those, the Indiana Jones, the Flash movie. I don't know that there's a lot of anticipation for that one so much anymore. Oh yeah, Aquaman. I have no plans to see that. I have no plans to see the Marvels movie. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I do plan to see that, but that's not one that's really high on my list of, eagerly anticipated films. Also, Ghostbusters, I understand it's coming out, or the next one is coming out this coming year, and same thing. I mean, I'm going to see it, but I'm not just thrilled about it. Indiana Jones, I just mentioned that already, but I'm not super thrilled about that. I watched the trailer, did a reaction to that. It hasn't gone up yet. I'm feeling a skosh more interested in it, but honestly, just given the way so many things have been bungled, so many long-running franchises have been screwed up by the writers of today, I'm not very optimistic about that movie. So that's not on my top list of films. So let's get started with honorable mentions. I'll just run through them really quickly. Ant-Man, I'm a bit interested in that, more so than some of the others, but not huge. That's why it didn't make my numbered list. Guardians of the Galaxy, definitely more interested in that one probably than Ant-Man, but not necessarily enough to make it on my list. If you haven't noticed, my anticipation for a lot of big budget blockbustery comic book type movies, it's waning because I don't like what's been happening in the world of the comic book films, and so it's just kind of lost its luster in a lot of ways, though I am still interested in them to an extent. There's another one called They Listen, which I couldn't find any poster of it because from what I understand, they have just started filming it this month, December of 2022. It stars John Cho, and I can't remember the lady that's in there, but I think she played in the Fantastic Beasts movies, and like the main female protagonist. And it's the same director, I believe, as the guy who worked with John in the Searching movie. And I think they also worked together in some comedy. Was it American Pie? I don't know. Anyway, they worked together. And so given Searching, and I really, really like that, surprisingly, since it's a webcam-based movie, I am interested in this just because of the team, but we've got a while before that's supposed to be coming out or even a stinking poster. So The Exorcist. Now, I'm a little wary about this. It supposedly stars the same actor who played the mother of Reagan in the original, so she's like really going to be the only tie-in. It's not really like a hard reboot or whatever. It's maybe more of a continuation, just with a different set of people, but just tying back to the mother. The problem with this is that while I am interested in it, and I probably will go to see it, well, obviously I plan to go see it, David Gordon Green is working on this, and from what I understand, it's supposed to be a trilogy. Well, we all know how he screwed up Halloween, so the difference is he lied to us and said that Michael is human, but he didn't act like Michael was human. He's got more playing room with material like this because you're talking about supernatural stuff, so almost anything can go, right? Anyway, okay, the final film in my honorable mentions is The Last Train to New York, which is an American version or English language version of Train to Busan, which is an excellent horror zombie movie. That movie was so good, very emotional, very well done, very well acted, and just the cinematography and the suspense and everything. I did a reaction to that movie a couple years ago and really enjoyed it. And I'm just curious more than anything to see how well this will do, or like how it's going to compare to the original. Obviously, I don't think they can beat the excellence of the original, but I'm just curious. So I'll probably go see it. To be determined as far as the release date, so it's very possible it won't even come out this year. We'll see. Okay, let's begin the countdown with number 10. Renfield. Okay. I almost moved this one out of my numbered spot and replaced it with Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever, but this, I talked myself out of that. This is a horror-ish slash comedy, probably going to be more comedic. It's based on the character of Renfield, who was Dracula's sort of like his henchman, sidekick. And from what I understand, Nicolas Cage is playing the role of Dracula, and Nicholas Hoult? Is Nicholas Hoult? Yeah, he's playing Renfield. And so he ends up, I think, locked in like a mental institution or something, and he meets this girl that catches his interest. I think he falls in love with her, and she is played by Awkwafina. So the fact that she's in here was what made me decide to just go ahead and keep this on the numbered list. I've seen the pictures of Nicolas Cage in the getup for Dracula, and it looks so hokey. But I'm hoping that actually seeing it on screen, whatever part he's going to play, I mean, this is really going to focus around Renfield. I'm hoping that Awkwafina's performance and the setting will make this entertaining enough to not be completely ridiculous. You know, Nicolas Cage hasn't had the best track record when it comes to material that he's been working on, but I like the concept. Something that you're going to notice on this list, and something that I noticed with happiness, is that there are multiple vampire-related films coming out this year. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, that's why Renfield, or those are the reasons why Renfield made it onto my list. Vampires, Awkwafina, and the setting. We'll see. I don't know. It might end up being completely ridiculous. We'll find out. Okay, number 9. This is a Netflix movie, and from what I understand, they're planning for it to be sort of a series type of thing. It's called Heart of Stone. This is really the only imagery I could find for it. There is like a little teaser or first look sort of thing that's on, but I couldn't find any poster. It stars Gal Gadot, and she's going to be sort of like, I think I've seen her described as like a female version of a James Bond type, like a spy. And I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me at all. Something I don't like is this trend of taking established characters and doing swaps on them just because. Piggybacking off of something that's already been established. Like, you know, there's talk of different swaps for James Bond. Not just the 007, but actual James Bond. James Bond himself is an actual character. That is his character. He's not someone that can be interchanged. The 007 label, yes, but not James Bond. So I have no problem with them establishing a similar sort of series, except with a female lead. I think it'd be interesting. It'd be cool. I like Gal Gadot. She's pretty kick-ass. And I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this. And so definitely we'll be watching it. To be determined as far as release date. I guess we'll find out. And hopefully it'll be enjoyable. Okay, number 8. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I have not listened to this book yet. I probably should go ahead and get started on it because, well, when The Hunger Games came out, I listened to all the books before I saw all the movies. I enjoyed the movies. I thought they were pretty decent representation of the books or adaptation of the books. And so I'm curious to see if this is going to hold up. I'm not crazy about Jennifer Lawrence, so it's kind of not quite as enjoyable to watch the movies anymore, but I did like them as a whole, and I'm hoping that this will also be as enjoyable as the Hunger Games movie trilogy was. I really, really like the book series, so hopefully the book will be good, and the movie will be as well. All right, number 7. Gremlins 3. This is supposed to be coming out in December. I enjoyed the first Gremlins, wasn't super crazy about the second one. However, it's been years and years since I've seen it. So I have a feeling that if I rewatched it, I might have greater appreciation for it. And I kind of feel like I would enjoy returning to different franchises from the 80s that were good, as long as they can do a decent job with them. That's the problem. Things that they've tried to sort of continue on, it just hasn't had a good track record with regard to how well it's been carried off. With the exception of the recent Top Gun sequel, for the most part, they just don't do very well. It comes down to the writing, obviously. From what I understand, they had initially thought about doing that it was just going to be a reboot or whatever, but no, that information might either be inaccurate. I don't think so, because it's been written in articles. It's not just rumor or speculation. So we'll see. We'll know more in about a year's time. Number 6. The Equalizer 3. I really enjoyed the first Equalizer movie. I thought that was excellent. And while I liked the second one, I didn't enjoy it as much as the first one. I believe Dakota Fanning will be playing in this with him. Just kind of interesting that they're going to be reunited, because they had worked on Man on Fire. I'm pretty sure that's information that I saw. So very interested to see this. Hopefully it will compare positively with the first one. We'll see. Sequels they're not always as good as what came before them, but maybe. Okay, number 5. Salem's Lot. This went on my most anticipated list for 2022, and then it got rescheduled. And the reason I put April 2023 with question marks is because I had seen that it was rescheduled for April, but then I'd seen somewhere else rumblings or indications that might not be the case. So I honestly do not know if this is going to happen. I really enjoyed the Salem's Lot book. That, I think, is my favorite Stephen King novel. The movies that they've done, they're okay, but they don't seem to capture the essence of the book. And I'm hoping that maybe this one will do a bit of a better job at it. I don't know, especially since they'll have better, the makeup will look better. The vampires won't look quite as, I don't know, they were limited with how they could make things look. So I'm hoping that this is going to be maybe a better adaptation than the other movies that we were given, and hopefully it will actually come out this year. All right, number 4. A Haunting in Venice. I saw this, I was just looking through a list of upcoming movies for 2023, and I saw it, I'm like, what is this, a ghost story or whatever? And I looked it up and I found out that it's just a continuation of Kenneth Branagh's Agatha Christie series of movies based on the detective character. Oh my gosh. Poirot. What? I couldn't pronounce his name very well when I did the review for Death on the Nile. Death on the Nile made my most anticipated for 2022, and I watched that, did a review of it. I enjoyed it. The problem is I already knew what the ending was going to be when I headed into it, because I remembered how the one from the 70s had gone, and so I felt like it kind of took away a bit of my enjoyment. Also, there were some changes that they made to characters, you know how they do, because that's like the thing these days. And I didn't, it wasn't necessarily super annoying, but it was just something that jumped out at me. And so I'm sure that's probably going to continue with this, but the upside is that I have not read this book that it's based on. I'm assuming it's based on one of her books, and I have not seen the movie, if they've made a movie of this. So I'm going to go into this blind, not knowing anything about the setup or who the baddie is or the baddies or whatever. So really looking forward to this. I've enjoyed these movies for the most part. Yeah. Okay, so number 3. The Last Voyage of the Demeter, or Demeter, however the heck you pronounce it. This is the 3rd vampire-related movie on my list. Obviously, the first one was Renfield, and then Salem's Lot, and then this one. This is the ship they sent Dracula over to the mainland, or like, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, when he was sent from Transylvania to London or to UK, the Demeter or Demeter, Demeter, I think it's Demeter, whatever. I did work on the Dracula audiobook. You'd think I'd remember, but no, I don't remember. This was the boat that he went on, and I think he killed everybody on board, because like He's a vampire. So this is going to be a movie that's not going to have a good ending for the protagonist, but I'm very curious about it, and so that's why it made my list, and that's why it ranks so high up. It just, I don't know, something about it is really capturing my attention, so we'll see. Okay, number 2. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. With the exception of the second movie, the Mission Impossible films have been very solid, very enjoyable, very much action-packed. Obviously, yes, in many ways to the point of a bit of ridiculousness, but Tom Cruise is doing all these stunts. I mean, it's not really like visual effects that's going on from what I understand, and so that really heightens the suspense and just amps it up. And so the trailers have looked pretty good, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I'm looking forward to it. That's why it's on this list. I don't like that it's a part 1. I'm hoping that it doesn't end on a big cliffhanger, because that's going to be annoying, because that means we have to wait a whole freaking year probably, because part 2 most likely won't come out until summer of 2024. I hate cliffhangers in movies, especially when you have to wait a long time before you see the conclusion of everything. So, number 1 surprised me that I ended up putting this one in the number 1 slot. I thought Mission Impossible would take it, but no, it didn't. Number 1, Kraven the Hunter. It's coming out in October 2023. Yes, it's a Marvel movie. It's made with Sony, just like Spider-Man No Way Home was, but also Morbius. So, I don't know. I'm going into this with some level of optimism, but one of the reasons that this ended up in my number 1 slot is because I'm only superficially knowledgeable about Kraven the Hunter from the comics. So, I'm going to be going into this with not a bunch of knowledge beforehand about the characters, so my expectations not going to be super on up there. And also because he's not one of the main characters we keep seeing all the time over and over. Like, I enjoy seeing Henry Cavill Superman, but not anymore. He's not going to be around. Wonder Woman, Batman, and all the Marvel characters that we're familiar with. So I like seeing some of the lesser known characters, or it interests me. Now, Marvel's heading into that territory with some of the lesser known characters. The problem is I feel like they're doing such a crappy job of presenting them to us. So that's why I haven't been really crazy about them. And I kind of wish they would keep some of the fundamental ones that we started off with, but those are being phased out. And also something else that interests me about this is that Aaron Taylor Johnson is going to be playing the part of Kraven. I saw names of who else is going to be in this movie, but I can't remember the rest of the cast. And so I'm just really curious about this. Probably more curious than highly anticipated, but because I'm as curious about it as I am and have tentative fingers crossed, or tentative positive optimistic feelings about it, just based on Spider-Man, I'm going to try to forget about Morbius. I'm hoping that they can do a decent job with this. And I guess we'll find out in October. So yeah, that's my list of most anticipated films. I actually got this filmed in record time, you guys. Well, record time for me, because I had the timer set. I was going to watch the countdown from transitioning into 2023, and I thought I wouldn't make it in time, so I set a timer so that I could pause and watch the countdown and then return. But I have actually wrapped it up before 2023. I am proud of myself because this is not something that happens often. This is actually less than 30 minutes. Holy cow. Okay, you guys, that's my list. Curious to find out what your list is, your top 5 or 10 or whatever, and really curious to find out how good these are in the end. I will let you know in December of 2023. Okay, you guys, Bye.